Oh, wow. I think we're live. Hopefully, just a sec here. We'll get things going. Instagram's always the last one. There we go. Awesome. Let's get that going on Instagram. Get the chat a little refresh. Maybe the chat will show up on the stream today, and it does. Wow, everything is working so far, except my right eye again. So I'm always getting eye problems. I gotta get that sorted out. Well, welcome to the live stream, folks. If you're new to the live streams, I try to do these every Monday as much as I can, and it's usually an hour-long stream, sometimes a little bit over. And the context is that I will generally go over my newsletter article. It's not always that. Sometimes we end up doing some live coding, vibe coding, that kind of stuff. Today, we're not going to be coding, though. We're going to be going over the newsletter article. And this one is going to be about company alignment. Hey, Devin, thanks for being here. Devin is a supporter. I appreciate you, Devin. You're on every platform, and it's awesome. It's always good to see you. So, yeah, this one is going to be about company alignment and how much that matters for you as a developer. And of course, as we go through this, like always, if people have opinions on this kind of stuff, especially if they're different than what I'm saying, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. The whole point with these live streams is that it is interactive. There is a chat, so please feel free to use it. Instagram chat doesn't show up in the shared chat, unfortunately, but I am watching it separately. And when people comment on Instagram, I try to read it out so everyone can hear. But yeah, it's it's an AMA as well. So as we're going through this stuff, if there's even something you want to ask about that has nothing to do with the topic, that's totally cool too. I feel like this is a good opportunity to at least have these types of conversations. So, yeah, with that said, don't forget, leave your questions and stuff as we're going, and I'm happy to kind of finish up my thought and then get over to your question and get over to it. So I'm just going to pull up my newsletter on my side, and I'll share it in the chat, because if you want to read along and kind of see the topics, if you haven't already, it is available right here. It's at weekly.devleader.ca. I always remind people that it's it's a newsletter. If you're like, oh God, you silly tech creators and your newsletters, I don't want any email newsletters, it's totally cool. I don't blame you. I get lots of email. I work at Microsoft in the Office 365 side of the house, and let me tell you, I get lots of email. I get so much email that it would be impossible to try and read it all. So I get it. And if, email bothers you or you're not going to read a newsletter, totally cool. But if you're, into the live streams and you want to see what the topic is probably going to be, just bookmark weekly.devleader.ca and check it out on the weekend. Okay, so the framing for this one, like a lot of the newsletters that turn into these live streams, is that this is a topic that came up from the subreddit Experienced Devs. And so if I don't have pending questions and stuff or topics that I'm just super excited to go over, I often go over to the Experienced Devs subreddit, because I think it's at least an interesting source to see, good topics to to chat through, because odds are, if someone is curious about something, right, they're having a particular challenge or they want to understand something better, odds are other people are going to have same types of questions or experiences on that to share. So I like going over there for ideas, for things to talk about. And this one did come from a Redditor. And so the framing here is like, when it comes to what your company does, right? So wherever you're working or wherever you plan to work, that kind of thing, how much is that really a factor for you as a developer, right? So if I'm gonna try to pick some polar opposites of things just to kind of get you thinking, right? But like, if you worked at a software company that made software that was for, like, specifically for weapons, right? what would that look like? Or if you worked at a company that made software specifically for rescuing animals, or you worked for a company that made software for the music industry or for sports or for something else, right? Like, does the company align with you, or do you align with the company? That kind of thing. How much does that really matter? Okay, so that's going to be what we're talking through in this. And I think for me, this is an important one because I like, just to kind of give you a high level of where my perspective is on this. It's like I want to acknowledge that, kind of like whenever I try to have these conversations, like every single person's different. And not only is every single person different, but like you are a different person today than you were a few years back, than the person you will be in 10 years from now, because the things that we value, and how much we value them, all of that kind of stuff changes and evolves over time, especially as our life circumstances change. And that's not to say that, in 10 years, I'm trying to sit here and guarantee like you're going to be a completely different person and everything that you know and love will be changed. Like, no, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that you may have different priorities in your life right now than you do when you're 10 years from now or 10 years ago. And I think that's important to factor in with this kind of stuff. Okay, so that's going to be one of the meta points as we talk through this, is that everyone is different, and even you as a person will be different. Hello, Stony Eagle. Aloha. I don't have my Hawaiian shirt on. I do have some good Hawaiian shirts, though. We finally got to. My wife and I are in the United States, and when we had moved down here from Canada, it was kind of challenging because when we want to go on vacation, we're like, well, where can we go? Because we were going through some of the process with visas and immigration and stuff like that. And for different periods of time, we weren't able to leave the country. So we're like, where can we go? And we're like, actually, Hawaii is part of the United States. Like, let's go to Hawaii. So we went to Hawaii a couple of times and love it. So aloha. So yeah, I think that's one of the things I want to get across, is that, like, everyone's going to be different. You will be different. And when I think about my, we could feel happy for you without Hawaiian shirts. That's right. I think when I think about my own career, my perspective on this kind of stuff is that, there's a couple different parts. One is like the company's mission overall. I think there's kind of like a mission the company's after. I think there is how well that comes through in the culture, which, in a perfect world, those things are aligned, right? Like, awesome mission, you have a really good company culture to kind of support that. And then I also think, like, kind of separate from the mission is, like, it's related, don't get me wrong, but the domain that you're in. And what I mean by domain is, like, software is kind of this super, awesome industry where whatever you're building software for could be completely different domains, right? You could be making stuff for agriculture, or for finance, or for sports, or software for software. You could, like, it's so cool because you can pick any industry and software is applicable, right? So I think that, the industry and how much, like, your interest aligns with that is part of it. I think that's also part of, like, the company mission's part of it. I think that the company culture is part of it. And there's a bunch of these things that kind of tie together. And like I said, in a perfect world, these are all aligned. And I think that the reality is that it's not a perfect world. And so for me, I don't know, I feel like the domain is, like, less important for me so far in my career, but I do think company culture is huge, and I do think the company's mission is also very important. And I have, like, full transparency. I'm gonna use the word struggle, and I feel like that's way too strong of a word, but almost like an identity crisis kind of struggle thing going on, where for me, like I said, company culture is really important, but the mission's really important too. And going from a digital forensics company where I was before I started there, if you asked me about my alignment to the mission, I would say I think it's important, but like like I don't know, I haven't been part of that. It doesn't like seems noble, but like shrug. And so a lot of what we did at that digital forensics company was was helping law enforcement, and a lot of the time it was, as unfortunate as it is to say, like was helping catch the people that were doing terrible things to kids. And so I hadn't really thought of that until I was working there and realized, like, man, like this mission is nuts. Like it is such a like empowering and motivating thing to be part of that. And so I do, like, for me, it's not that without it there was no way I could see myself working at a company, but with it was just like, I don't know, like this extra enormous boost on top of it. So when I was saying the word like, struggle or identity crisis, the reason I have that now is because I feel like anything I feel like anything else other than what I was doing, it's going to be really hard to compete with a mission like that. Right? And so to me that's where it's kind of tricky, and that's not to say that I don't believe in what I'm doing or I don't think it's valuable. So for context, now I work at Microsoft. I work on the Office 365 side of Microsoft, and I work in the routing plane. So in particular, my team works the firewall, and I have some other parts of the routing plane, some different pieces of the tech stack. And so, like, it's a really important part of what we do. Like, we are responsible for making sure traffic goes to the right spots, that it gets there with low latency, that that the services that we're supporting remain highly available. So it's incredibly important. But at the same time, like that is a mission. I realize there's lots of value and importance, but when I compare it to something like, helping save children, I'm like, I just one of those to me seems to resonate a little bit more. Right. And that's why for me, I'm like, I don't know if I will ever have something that kind of feels like that. So company mission for me, it's not that it is a critical part that if it's not quite there, like at the very top of like the perfect alignment, that I'm like, no dice, I can't do this. But I do think that it's very important for me from a motivation perspective. And then just kind of jumping over to the chat, right? Josh was saying company culture and values have a huge impact. Culture is huge. Places with toxic culture eat themselves alive. Yeah. And so out of the things that I mentioned, like the domain, the mission, and then the culture all day, every day, hands down for me, most important thing. I don't know if can I quote myself? I don't even know if I can quote myself accurately, but I remember at different points in time where I used to work saying to people, because we were like, at the time when I started, there was like a 7-person company that grew to like 250 people when I was there. So like we went through a lot of change together, right? A lot of like a lot of times in the beginning where it's just like crazy startup times. And I remember saying to the people that I work closely with, like, to me, it didn't matter like what we were building specifically. I was like, it wouldn't matter if we were building this or cheese graters or something else. I know that like that we work well together, and like that part was huge for me. The fact that we were a cohesive team that worked well together. We could challenge each other. We were always there to support each other. Like just so much alignment. I do think the mission really helped with that. But at the same time, like the just having good people, man, it's like the culture. I think hands down is one of the most important things. TBD Gamer says, I think I've worked in too many places where they try and force a culture. Yeah. And the mission feels hollow. Okay. Especially as companies grow fast, I think identity becomes a challenge. Hello. Yes. That is, that is awesome. I really, really do agree with that. And it's tricky, right? I've said this, if for folks that are watching this, like if you do watch Code Commute, I have said many times on Code Commute in my vlog entries that like culture is incredibly important, right? And I think that something that's misunderstood, especially people, like unfortunately the people in leadership positions, a lot of them will misunderstand this, which is like you're looking at the culture of like your team or your teams, your organization or your company overall, and you're like, okay, well, this is like we got to make changes because we got to make the culture look like X. Like it needs to. We got to do this. We got to do that. People should feel this way. They have to do that. And the idea that's in their mind is like, well, we'll set the culture. Like we just here's the culture. Press apply, and now the culture is rolled out. We'll deploy the culture to the team, and like it doesn't work that way. Culture is it's observed, right? It's the observed side effect of what's going on. So you need to like live and breathe all of these things on a regular basis. And you can be part of shaping the culture. You can be part of doing things that influence like how people work and interact together, and the side effect of that is that you get this observed culture. You do not get to just set the culture. And I think that when I see TBD gamers comment around like where they try and force the culture, to me, that's where you have these types of situations where people don't realize it's an observed side effect of all of the other things. And so it's very easy to sit back and say like, no, our culture is this, right? We do things this way, and that's the way it has to be done. And that is our culture. It's easy to sit there and do that. The work is actually living and breathing it, right? So I think that culture feels forced when people sort of dictate it to you instead of observing it. And then the mission feeling hollow. I'm curious, TBD gamer, obviously not to put you on the spot, but if there's any like more specifics around that, I'd love to hear like examples of that. I'm not saying that I disagree with you. I think that absolutely can happen. To your point, especially as companies grow fast. So the that one of the tricky things that as a manager I try to remind people is like a lot of the time in engineering we're focused on how we're doing things. Like what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Like those are important to us because like we're building stuff, we're technical, we're software engineers, we like putting things together, and I think that it's very easy to focus on that, right? Then we layer in the when because we got schedules, we got to deliver stuff. So we got the what, the how, and the when, but so often we miss talking about why. And I don't mean for this to sound like, woo woo or whatever, but like I think the why part is so critical because when we start leaving it out, we can get disconnected from the work we're doing and then the impact that it can have. Right? So like I've literally had this type of conversation with people on my team where we're doing like status updates, or I'm talking with someone in a one-on-one specifically about the work they're doing, and we get into some of the conversation, and like I've had conversations where I have uncovered that someone like knew what they were doing, they knew how they were doing it, and obviously they understood like their timeline and like the deliverables and stuff. But when we got talking about it, they were like, it's not that how do I say this? It's not like they don't know why they're doing it. Because their framing for why might be like, oh, because we're trying to improve, like, from A to B. That's why we're doing it. And that's not wrong. But if you zoom out a little bit, why does A to B matter here? Like, why are we trying to go from A to B? Like what is that impacting? And I think being able to talk about this story for why can be a lot more engaging for people, and they go, oh man, like I didn't realize that this is the kind of impact associated with this. Like the why behind the work you're doing is very important, and it can often take things that might not seem super engaging because you're like, I'm gotta go build this feature, and sure, okay, I'm gonna optimize performance a little bit or fix this bug or whatever. And it's like when you're not catching the why, I think that over time can just feel like you're just doing a sequence of things that just like tasks that people have assigned you. And like, that might be fine. Maybe you find, engagement and enjoyment and challenge in the tasks that you're getting, and that's cool. But I do think that when you have the why associated with it, that can drive a lot more engagement. And, I think people get weirded out when I say this, but like you could be a little bit more excited about the work you're doing because you understand the impact that you're having. Joel says, yeah, forcing a culture makes it look like you're trying too hard. Yeah, and I think that it fails too. Like people see through it, right? Where you have the people that are sort of responsible for, carrying out everything every day. They're the ones working in these teams, and they're being told like this is your culture, and they're the ones looking around going like, yeah, I don't think so. Like, I don't know what you're what you're seeing, but it's not this. Like, this is not the culture. Like, people see when you're trying to force it, and it doesn't work. So you have to live it, right? This is my recommendation to anyone that may watch this at any point in time that is in a position where they feel like they need to dictate the culture, to set the culture. If you feel that, where you're like, oh man, like our team or our organization or this company I have, like the culture seems off. Like I need to tell the people what the culture is going to be. Don't. I mean, you can articulate your ideas around this. Like this is where you'd like to move the culture. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you need to live it. Like you have to start living it, or else it's just not going to happen. You don't tell people and then go, and then it just culture doesn't work that way, unfortunately. TDB Gamer says, I think being in the dev side, you see how the sausage is made. Yeah. So when you're putting out the message about our mission is to do X or we make Y our primary concern, it doesn't work that way. Or there are things that are getting ignored to look better. Yeah. Great point. Like you can kind of, I think the sausage factory analogy is a good one here. Like you can see what's happening behind the scenes. Right. And this kind of goes back to, in some ways, like not, you can't dictate the culture, right? If you're going to say that like, these are the values we have, and then you're like, okay, if we value, I'm just making up an example. If we value security, right? We value security, then why is it that every time we're a little bit behind on a deadline, we just cut all the security features, right? We value privacy. Okay. But like, every feature we're doing, we're also finding these ways to sneak in things to like get some customer data because, that's going to help our analytics, or that's going to help us, make more money somehow. I don't know. But, you get to see what's actually happening on a regular basis. So, when you're being told, oh, this is our mission, or these are the things we value, as TBD Gamer is saying here, like, when you're in it and living it and breathing it, if those things aren't aligning, and you're seeing the people in like, I don't know, these positions that you want to be emulating, right? Maybe that's your manager. Maybe that is, the more senior engineers on the team, right? The people that you're looking up to, and you're like, I look up to these people. I'm supposed to trust and respect them. I'm being told like our organization values X. And every person that I'm supposed to look up to and trust and everything, they're doing Y instead. Like, seems misaligned, right? And there are opportunities, depending on how you feel about these things, to maybe step up and try to drive some change. And I would always tell people this. I would encourage that. And at some point, it may not be. You may find like you're in a spot like that truly doesn't actually value those things, and it's kind of an uphill battle. But Joel says the why question is the most important. When leadership answers why, the team feels part of the team. Yeah, I genuinely believe this. I know for me it is more helpful. I've seen people kind of completely change how they're looking at something when they understand why. But at the same time, like I almost don't blame people when we don't talk about this enough. And I'm really sorry, my mouth is super dry. I don't know why. But yeah, I think that a lot of the time we omit the part about why. So, as managers, or if there's people that are in a product management position, I feel like this gets dropped a lot. Just not part of the conversation because we're just focused on trying to get stuff done, right? So people, in a management position like myself, like sometimes we forget to do that. and I'm not trying to make excuses for it, but like that ends up happening. And then on the other end of it, on the more receiving end, if you're in an IC role and you're a software engineer and you're contributing to these things, you know, I don't I don't expect that every single person's like, great, now that I've seen the story on the Jira board, like I'm immediately going, let's talk about why, because I watched this Nick guy on a live stream say that we should ask this. It like it's not necessarily a natural thing, and I think that, you know, one of my goals over time is that more and more people just start to do this, right? Like more naturally. Devin says, my last job, I tried to drive change. Ultimately, I couldn't change my job, so I changed my job. Yeah, I love that. I had a feeling as I was reading that I knew what that last part of the sentence was going to say, and I still stumbled over it. But ultimately, I couldn't change my job, so I changed my job. Yeah, that's pretty powerful, right? It's hard because I know some people will hear me say things like this on whether it's on a live stream or in a Code Commute vlog or anything else, like written in a newsletter. But I genuinely, you know, feel this way, that if you see things going on around you that you don't like, try to be part of driving the positive change. Like I do encourage people to do it, but I know that some people have like lived through these scenarios where they're like, doesn't matter what I say, doesn't matter what anyone says, like not going to happen. And like, I hear you. So if you're in a spot like that, I would encourage you, like, it's either, if you don't like what's going on and you can't drive the change, like as Devin said, I can't change my job, so change my job. Right? I think that's a really good takeaway. Joel says there's only one true culture in any organization. It's the one that naturally develops over time. Absolutely. But if it's forced, there's always something instinctively wrong about the environment. Yeah. Growing up as a minister's son, you start seeing the fakes. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. But I do agree, right? You can't force this kind of thing. So I'm curious, because thank you for being active in the chat, folks. Some of these live streams, it's like maybe I get one person or no people in the chat. Sometimes there's a lot of people jumping in, which is really cool. So I do appreciate it. If you don't mind in the chat, like when it comes to your alignment with your company's mission, I'm curious to hear about that. So culture aside and domain maybe aside, the mission of your company, how much does that matter for you? Have you worked at different places that had a different kind of mission and that did or did not have an effect? Stony, I'm not going to complain about that. Welcome aboard. I appreciate you being here, and I do hope to see more of you, right? Try to do these every Monday, but when I can't, you can still check it out on Code Commute. I'm just behind on my normal YouTube videos. I took like a month off from making normal YouTube videos. Just really, really behind. And you can see, if it's not obvious, my stupid eye, right? Like when I get like this, it's because I'm not sleeping and I'm really stressed out. And I end up getting these stupid styes and my eye looks all wonky. But yeah, I got to catch up on my other YouTube videos, so we'll be doing that. Devin says, it's easy to feel helpless. I was there 10 years. In hindsight, it was 5 years too long. Yeah. But I was beat down and didn't feel like I was good enough to take the next step. Yeah, this is like, you know, unfortunately, I would say not a rare thing, right? Like a bunch of that is not is not like a super rare thing. So there for 10 years, right? Devin says 5 years too long. So there's this period where when he's reflecting on it, it's like, yeah, like maybe should have changed, right? But beat down. So this is the kind of stuff that often sneaks up on us over time, right? I think there's situations where if you, I don't know, you have a conversation with your boss and it's not a good conversation, like that's a more acute kind of effect where you're like, oh crap, like this isn't good. And then it's kind of obvious, like something's not good, right? You have this reaction, this feeling. But for these types of things, often it's like something that accumulates, right? When I talk about things like burnout, I'll often say one of the scariest parts about burnout is that it's kind of like this over time kind of thing. And it's not like, oh, I'm burnt out because it was a bad day at work, or I'm burnt out because the week was long. you're burnt out because you've been doing things for months or years, right? It sneaks up on you until it's like a depressive episode, right? You don't really realize it's happening. So I think the same kind of thing can happen here, where you see kind of see things going in a direction, or maybe you don't even see them going in a direction, but by the time you notice, you're like, I kind of want to think I need to speak up about this and change, but you're like, nothing's changing around you. Or anytime you try, you're like, oh, it's not getting resistance, or like I'm not getting buy-in. And then, okay, so that all sucks. So then you get to this point where you're like, maybe it is time to leave. And then what? Like when you feel like Devin said, you feel like you're not good enough to take the next step. You feel kind of just stuck, right? It's like, it's really not a good spot to be in. It's like you're feeling trapped, and so no good. Stony says, I have zero professional experience. I work on my own project that I work full-time on. Nice. Awesome. Lots of love and time put in. That's awesome. I think that's, the best kind of stuff to work on. I can't comment anything about income or anything like that, but I think if you have the means to be able to do that kind of thing, then hell yeah, that's great. And Devin says, I wasn't the only one feeling that way. After I left and showed it could be done, 5 other people left over 6 months. Yeah. Right. Kind of like, that's unfortunate, right? Because it's like, I don't know the details there, but I imagine that if someone could have started to show positive change internally, that instead of having those people leave after you, it would have been those people being like, wait, we can drive change. Like, we can make a difference. Okay. Like, let me speak up and do something about it. Right. Obviously I don't have data to prove that would be the case, but I would speculate that's what would happen. Minister Sang was no less than 3 years, no more than 7. Okay. I have never heard these things before. That's very cool. TBD Gamer says, I have found I care more about the people around me believing in the mission is my motivation. Okay, well, I'm going to read that again. I have found I care more about the people around me believing in the mission is my motivation. I love delivering software to people and get the most out of seeing the end users not struggle. Okay, very cool. Yeah. I'm curious, when you say that first part, I found I care more about the people around me believing in the mission is my motivation. One of the things that comes to mind around this is I think about the times where I've worked on teams where the people around me, like the other developers, or maybe it's other teams even, so including managers or other roles. But when I'm working around people that are like highly motivated, and that could be for any number of reasons. Maybe that's like purely from their alignment with the mission. Maybe that's just because how they are as people working on these projects, whatever it is. But when I'm around other people that are like super motivated and they're like, I want to help you however I can. I can't wait to get this done. Or even when things suck and they're like, this is part, can I swear on YouTube? I don't know. I swear on Code Community when they're like, this is shitty. But like, we got to get it done. That's okay. Cause like, we got to push through and make it to the next part. When I'm around other people like that, it is so motivating because that's the kind of like matching the energy that I want to have. Right. I don't always feel that way on every project or every task I have, but that's how I want to be. I want to be in that mode. And when I see other people doing it, it makes me feel like, okay, it's like, it's okay to be like that. And okay, we'll push through on this even when it's not good, or, we're working on difficult problems, but we can rally on this. And like, it's fun to work together to solve these types of things. And the opposite happens too. Like if I'm around other people and I want to be like that, right? I want to be kind of driving and pushing on these difficult things. And other people are kind of like, I don't know, man, we can do the bare minimum. Or like, I don't know, we don't really want to change anything. Like it's going to be a lot of work. Like I know the build system kind of sucks and it takes, 7 business days to get a binary out of it. But like, kind of just do it, man. It's fine, right? We're okay with it. Like the tests haven't passed in 3 years, but like there's a lot of tests and we're gonna want to clean them up. Like when you're around people that are like, they just don't want to be, driving improvement, or for me, like aligning in the same ways, to me, it's super demotivating because then I'm like, well, how much energy do I put into this? I want to put in the energy. I want to have the drive. I want to do things that way. But if other people aren't, it's like, oh, now it's almost like I'm fighting myself to not do it. It's very weird. Joel says, Burnout's real. You don't. You do feel stuck and loyal. Yeah. As long as we don't get into the. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I definitely need people around me that want to change things. Yeah, and when I stop wanting to drive forward, that's my indicator. It's time to go. Yeah, TBD gamer. That's an interesting point, right? I think I'm very similar in that regard. I have been in environments where change was welcome, and so what that looked like for me, at least, was that I felt empowered. I felt that I was trusted. I felt I'm going to use the word respected, but like that goes along with trust. So when I say I felt respected, I don't mean like, people needed to treat me like a king kind of respect. I mean that like I had, whether it was employees, peers, or managers that like, that valued my opinion, that trusted me, and they respected what I was doing, right? They respected the decisions I was making, that kind of thing. And ultimately that, was empowering and gave me autonomy. And that meant if I was like, hey, this is a frustrating thing, or I think that we could improve X, that I felt comfortable speaking up about it, that I could put my hand up and say, hey, like, does anyone else notice that like this thing over here kind of sucks? And like, I have a couple of ideas for this. Is anyone else interested in like trying to push this forward? And if not, like, is anyone upset if I like try to go do that? Because if not, I'm gonna go do it, right? And just having that sort of autonomy because of those factors, I think, was a huge part for me. So, conversely, being in an environment where it's like I try to raise awareness of some things, and that's being either shut down or ignored or not supported. I'm like, well, I don't. It just kind of goes back to like, I want to be making improvements, and if I'm not going to be able to do that, then maybe this isn't the spot for me, right? I think I should try first. If I try and it's not supported, and I don't see that there's going to be support, then like maybe it's not a good spot. Holly, welcome. There are studies that people who curse are more honest. Oh, awesome. Hell yeah. And if you're constantly around a crew who's honest about the situation, you can move mountains. That's awesome. The respect is about valued in your profession instead of treating you like an AI bot. Yeah. Yeah. It's, it goes a long way. I think being in and I don't like, some people may not have, and it sucks. Some people may not have sort of experienced this yet. Oh, a lot of hair on this thing, in their careers, right? Which is unfortunate, but like feeling like you're empowered, feeling like you have autonomy, those can completely change how you work, right? Completely. And that comes with, someone trusting you to do the right thing, to do as best as you can with the information you have, to have psychological safety, to know that if you don't do the right thing, you make a mistake, that it's going to be okay. We're going to work through it together. We'll all learn, right? Like being in an environment like that makes a huge difference. And so just want to remind people, if you're hearing what I'm saying and you're like, that sounds like crazy talk, man. Like that's some bullshit. I don't know what you're talking about. I promise you, there are places like this. I swear. And, you can be part of driving that change, or you could be looking for a place that's like that. So, okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit in this newsletter. I think that just going back to what I was saying earlier, that different points in your life might look a little bit different for the things you value. Okay, so to be totally transparent, like I value for sure, if I'm going to be spending time on things, I want to make sure that I'm well compensated. So I know that I have friends that started off in a similar way, where we're all like, hey, we graduated from school or whatever it was, or getting our first jobs. And it's like, how do we get as much money as we can, right? Like, who's going to pay me well? And then some people, could jump between companies and try to make more money, whatever it was. And so like money is a big part of it. And I would be lying if I said like having better compensation wasn't a very important thing for me. But it's interesting because over time, if I even, talk to, like my wife and I don't have children right now. And when I talk to some of my friends who have gone through life changes over the past 10 to 15 years, what's really interesting is that I have a friend of mine who, of course, was like very focused on career development, very focused on how much. And I don't mean this in like a negative way, by the way, but like focused on how much he could make, that kind of thing. These factors that getting married, having children. He works at a place where he's definitely not making as much money as he could have before or could now. But he's also like, you know what? Like I have these other parts in my life, like my family that I really value. Really value spending time with them. He's aligned the work he's doing to some things he's passionate about and like really cares about the mission, right? So he's optimizing different parts of his life. He's kind of like, maybe I don't need to be trying to chase like how do I double my salary. I'm not saying like he's at a spot where he's not making any money, but he was able to kind of even come down from where he was in terms of income to be able to go look at these other things that he cares more about. So he has should have a better work-life balance, right? That's part of it. And then he's able to spend more time with his family. And then the work he's doing is also very aligned to things that he's interested in. Right? So those things changed over time. And it's not that he didn't ever care about that mission for the company that he's working at. It's not like he never cared about that. But in terms of a priority, he would probably be like, I don't know, man, like I would be okay not doing that if someone was going to pay me more money. And I am that way right now. I think there's definitely certain things where like morally I'm like, no. But at the same time, I'm not at the point yet where I have found a particular, I don't know, a particular company mission where I'm like, that is the thing that I have to go do because I'm so drawn to it and so like inspired by it that I would be willing to just like take a pay cut kind of thing. And the reason for that is like, just, I like to work, so I'm going to work hard and I want to be compensated for it. And then between those two things, I will try to do other parts in my life that bring me other types of fulfillment. So it's just different. And that may change for me, right? When my wife and I have kids, that may very well change where I'm like, maybe I'll feel more of a pressure even in the beginning where I'm like, oh, are we making enough money, like that kind of thing. I probably will feel that way because I think that's, built into me. But I'm sure that when that time comes, that it will be more of a matter of how much more, like, how can I get more time with my family? I don't know that for sure, but that's what I suspect. Devin says, it's the difference between being a ticket robot and a problem solver. Yeah. And then Joel says, I respect that about my family first. Yeah, yeah. So, but these things are different for people over time, right? And I think that that's important to remind yourself is that, the things that you value now versus 10 years from now might look different. And I think that's important so that when you're looking at the place that you're working, if you're starting to feel dissatisfied with things, maybe you're at a point where it is, you're kind of shopping around. It's time for another place, like to factor in like, hey, look, maybe this was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, however long since the last job change, like you might very well be different as a person. And to kind of go back to the drawing board, do this reflection. What? Eve Singularity. Hi, I'm morally obligated to tell you that I came on your stream to test out whispers on Linux. That being said, what you're saying is interesting, so I say it. Awesome. By the way, it works. Whispers. What is whispers on Linux? I don't know if this is a plug for... I don't know if you're AI trying to advertise something, but go for it. Go for it, AI man or woman or other. I don't know what whispers on Linux is, but pitch it. Let's hear it. Holly says or asks, "Oh, not AI, not advertised." Okay, okay, you're a person. I'm sorry. I never know. There's people that come in from the streaming sites, and it's like, I just don't know. Most of the time, if it's from streaming sites, though, I get people that come in from like Kick and unfortunately from Twitch as well, and they're just like, buy viewers, and I'm like, yes, that's what I need. I need to buy viewers. So, well, what? So thank you for being here, but I'd love to know what Whispers is because I have no idea what it is. Holly asks, do you find that leaders who are threatened for their own job stability are creating more misalignment? Yeah, you know, I do think that's part of it. This is a generalization. When I think about people that seem to be acting maliciously, right? When it, to me on the surface, I'm like, that's a thing that that doesn't seem like a good thing to do. I have to, like, it's still a challenge for me, but I try to stop myself and think like, I don't really know personally any people that are like truly assholes on purpose, which might be a funny thing to kind of say out loud, right? I don't think that's people's normal mode of operation. So I think that we get people creating misalignment. Again, not necessarily on purpose, not to be malicious, but I think, Holly, I do agree that sometimes this can come up because if they're feeling threatened in terms of job stability or whatever else, right? Maybe it's not stability. Maybe they're feeling threatened because their ego or anything else. That I think that they can do this kind of thing, right? And if they're a leader in a position of some kind of power and they can make some types of decisions or move things along or influence in certain ways, that this happens. And unfortunately too, I think a lot of the time, again, I don't have stats to say whether or not this is true, but I believe a lot of the time this happens like without them really realizing, like they're not even proactively like, okay, like today's plan is we're gonna screw some stuff up here so that, like, it's not like that. It's just, it kind of just happens as a side effect of them trying to do some protection. I see this kind of thing even happen, like, so you have people in sort of like a leadership or management position that might do this kind of thing. I've seen this even happen with individual contributors that are very focused on themselves, their career development, where it doesn't matter kind of like what's happening outside of their bubble as long as they can steer things in the direction for them. And then that creates misalignment. But again, it's not on purpose. It's not like they're going, I'm going to go sabotage everyone around me on purpose. But blinders are up, they're hyper focused on themselves. So I think, yeah, even regardless of the role, sometimes it can have that kind of effect. The Twitch dev community is very nice in general, but there are some individuals who need to be okay. I don't know much about it. Okay, started using it 10 minutes ago. Here's a GitHub description, maybe how high performance inference or of OpenAI's Whisper automatic speech recognition. Cool. I've actually wanted to. Okay, now I know what you're talking about because that Whisper model. I don't know if it's I think it's the same one that's in Azure, and I wanted to use it for some transcription stuff to see. I have not tried though. So I'm very interested. If you said it's working on my stream, so I'd be cool to know. How do you? So, okay, Eve, let's hear it. How is it? How do you use it? So, like right now, you said it's working on my stream, transcribing speech to text. So how, like, I realize this is a weird question to ask. How are you doing it? You're taking the audio from the stream and like real time, like sending it over to this model, and how are you doing that? Like, did you write code for it, or is it like, how was that interface look? Just curious, because this, you're doing the homework for me. Thank you. This is genuinely something that I had on my list. Might even, it's not on my whiteboard, but it's one of the things that should be on my whiteboard. I've wanted to do this. I've just never got around to it, so it'd be very cool to hear about that. Um, okay, I talked about the why. I'm just scrolling through my newsletter. Sorry. What should you do if you're not feeling aligned? Yeah, I just started talking about reflection there. I think that's most of it, honestly, from at least from the topics from my newsletter that I wanted to get through. Um, but to kind of summarize the different angles here, I don't I don't think that every single person needs to have 100% alignment with everything that their company's doing, because some people, I don't mean this in a bad way, like they don't care enough, because their job for them is a 9 to 5 and they get a paycheck and that's fine. And they're like, there is nothing wrong with that. I just want to be very transparent about that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So some people, and maybe it's many people, again, I don't have stats to just pull out of somewhere, but for some people, it is very much just like, hey, like I have fulfillment in other parts of my life, whether that's, you know, hobbies of theirs, whether that's they have passion projects they're working on, whether that's their family, like it could, whatever it is, right? Some people have fulfillment in enough other things in their life and their career, their work. There's 9 to 5, and they're like, yeah, my company makes sheets of paper, and I'm fine with that. Whatever they pay me, I'm happy with the work. It's fine, great. So totally cool. I think that for other people, how much they're aligned with the company that they work at and what those facets of alignment are, can make a big difference, right? And for some people, it might be that some of those things are like a minimum that you need to meet. Like, for example, the buddy I was talking about, I think for this stage of his life, he's like, hey, look, if it's not a mission that I am in love with, I just don't want to spend time doing it. Right? Like that. And I think that's totally fair and totally respectable. He's like, I got these other things in my life that I really love. Right? He's, definitely, rightfully so, spending a lot of time with his family. And like, so, okay, if that's the priority. And okay, he's got to work so that he can, have an income. So he wants to make sure that that is very much aligned with the mission that he's on board with. And other people may not. Like I was saying, for me, like the mission helps, right? But I think that mine's almost the opposite, where, or I shouldn't say opposite, but from the perspective of like, I don't know specifically what that mission has to be, but I could probably think of a good handful of missions where I'm like, I'm not I'm not okay with that. And so I think I would approach it differently, where there are absolutely things that I would say no to. Like, I don't ever imagine myself intentionally making software for weapons. That was one of the examples I used at the beginning, right? I don't see myself doing that. If a company was like, hey, we would pay you lots of money to go do that, I'm like, I just don't think that I could. And I don't know what the number would have to be for me to be like, okay, I guess we have to do this because it's like winning the lottery. I just don't know. But it would be wildly uncomfortable. And so for me, I think it's more of the opposite, where probably a bunch of things I wouldn't do. And then there's probably some opportunities where I'm like, wow, that does sound really cool. But it's not a threshold. The company culture for me is, right? If I ever found myself in a place and I'm like, wow, this culture, I can't drive the change. Like I can't be part of that change in a positive way, and I'm not supported to do so, I would feel like absolutely can't be there. So I think how we align will look different as individuals. And then, one of the things I repeated a bunch throughout this talk was like, that may look very different for you in your own life over time. Yeah. Sony's saying, I do think you should have a sense of pride in what you leave behind, even if it's just a little bit. I think so too, right? When I think about things like that, I'm like, that's not for me to dictate to people, but I believe that. Like, I feel that way. I would like to be able to do that. I'd like doing good work. And part of that means that I want to feel proud about what I'm doing, and I want to be sure, or, one of my goals is that when I'm done doing work in a spot, I'd like to be able to leave and be like, yeah, like I did a good job. I'm proud of that. And I want people to be happy with that too. Right? Like that is a thing that I like, and that's a thing that I believe in. Devin says, the older I get, the more it's true that fulfillment comes from outside of work. Yeah. Yep. And Eve says, honestly, I don't think oh. Okay, we're talking about the whisper stuff. I don't think I'm technically skilled enough to give you an architecture that makes sense, but mine works. Probably because you have perfect diction. Wow. Well, thank you so much. Even my Canadian isn't screwing up my diction. I piped Chrome audio feed live into Whispers AI. Okay, but before you have to convert the audio into usable format. Oh, interesting. Okay. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at it. But yeah, Devin, I agree. The more it's true that fulfillment comes from outside of work. I didn't talk about it on this stream, but I actually, so I mentioned that where I used to work, it was very aligned with the mission. For people that have seen my content and stuff before, when I talk about working at this place, I mentioned that like I worked a lot, and not because like my boss forced me, or like the founder and the CEO, or like they were mean guys or something like that. Not at all. Like I've said this, like they were invited to my wedding even after I wasn't at the company, and so it was never anything like that. I just worked a lot. I like to work, and I would find that sometimes there were, because I love to code, right? And I would find that any side project I had, I'm like, oh, I want to go try this out, or I think I'm going to go build whatever. I would get into things, and once I would kind of hit a bit of a sticking point, or it got over like this honeymoon phase of the little project I was building, I would sit there and I would go like, I know that if I go do things for work, I just know that it will have an actual impact. Like it almost feels silly for me to spend time building anything else, which is, I don't think that was an incorrect statement. I think that it was true that I could have an actual impact by building more stuff or making more progress for work. But at the same time, I was never able to like give myself an honest shot for finding fulfilling things outside of work. So I do think now, right? Like I do find that like I do a lot of stuff outside of Microsoft, right? Like content creation is one example. I have told people this on the code commute videos. Like code commute videos are really fun for me. Right? YouTube, like even making YouTube tutorials, like that is kind of work. I like being able to do it because people will say it helps. But a code commute video is fun for me because I just talk about this kind of stuff. Like this is what I do. This is what I do for work, is talk about this kind of stuff just with more context. And so like I do enjoy code commute. I find that some of the stuff I'm building outside of work now, like I'm really excited about. I'm really happy to go spend time on. And I realize what Devin's probably not saying is like, I can't, like, I'm very excited to go code more things outside of work, but those are things that I really like to do. And for other people, probably not the case, or maybe not the case, but yeah, finding more passion for things outside of work. Oh man, what would, Holly says, what would you build if the world would pay you top dollar? Is this, I don't, is this question about how far would I stretch my my morals and values, or what would I? Yeah, I don't know how to answer this because I don't know how top the dollar is. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know because, well, and here's another thing too that's kind of a weird one that people might not agree with, and I always find it kind of fascinating. But I think it comes from working in forensics for a while. But I know that if I talk about things that are related to like security, privacy kind of stuff, especially like privacy, I have a perspective where I'm like, if I'm doing it and it's like on a computer or connected to the internet, I'm like, assume that the world can know. Assume it. And that, again, like I said, comes from like a forensics perspective. So there are things where, like even working in digital forensics, one of the things that I was responsible for was with my team building software that would take, basically try to get as much information off of a mobile phone as possible, right? And we did this for a bunch of stuff, but one of the things that we focused on. And so people might be like wildly opposed to that because they're like, wait a second, you're making the software that's letting law enforcement, it's letting those cops look through my phone. Like, you can't do that. You can't, right? And like, and so then they're not in alignment with me. And I'm like, look, it's not, I think people have a very skewed perception of like, of things going on where suddenly everyone, just because the opportunity's there, that suddenly everyone is after you. Like, you are the, you're the center of the universe. Everyone wants the stuff off your phone. They don't want the stuff off your phone unless you're doing something very bad and they have a reason to go say, you're doing something very bad and give us your phone because we're going to get the evidence. So I think that a lot of the time in these types of privacy conversations, my framing is very, very different than some other people's. And, you know, that's a debate that people could get into. But when it comes to like, I'm not going to go build stuff that's like purposefully built for like surveillance on people. Like, that wouldn't feel okay. Unless someone said, hey, look, I'm just making this up off the top of my head. Unless someone was like, hey, this is a surveillance technology and literally we are building this so that it serves, I don't know how this would come together. So just hear me out. Like, somehow this serves for like protecting children. Like, I would feel like, hey, like, I don't know about the technology yet, but like interested if we're able to help, you know, save kids' lives. Right, where my privacy threshold and how that works looks like, the surveillance part seems kind of weird, but is there something there? I don't know. If it was just mass surveillance, like what was this thing from the Super Bowl commercials? Like, was it the Ring doorbells, or what's the other one? I can't remember. But people would they advertise something like, we're gonna help rescue the lost dogs or something, and someone did the math on the number they said, and they're like, that's like a couple of dogs a year or something, and you just turned everyone's front door into a camera for like a police state kind of thing. Like, that's a little odd to me, but I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know. I don't know what top dollar would look like, and I don't know the things I'd be doing for it, but I think at this point in my life, yeah, definitely. Even before, I don't like more crossing moral boundaries that I have. I don't think that's it's in the cards for me. Joel says, for me, I have side projects because work never has enough variety of the challenges. Okay, make my own problems. IT plus OT. What is OT? Thanks for being here, Devin. You're probably already gone, but I appreciate you. Joel, what is OT? Information technology plus something. Technology. I'm sorry, I don't know. You gotta let me know. And Holly says, the question was originally because of a side comment about building software that aligns with morals. Oh, a lot of times you don't know. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry if I didn't have a good answer. Sony says, we would not need all this if parents were taught to raise their kids right. Educate instead of punish. I don't have any kids. I'm just a silent observer seeing the difference in parenting. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff going on with that. I don't know, you know, I'm also not a parent, but so it's not really fair for me to criticize or critique because I just don't know, right? But I do strongly believe that a lot of, you know, how kids are raised is going to have a, you know, profound impact on the rest of their life. So I'm sure that could be a big part of it. Operational tech. I see. Thanks, Joel. I'm sorry. I hadn't seen the OT before. Okay, folks, I think I'm at the end of my stream here. I'm trying to think if there's some fun stuff to share though. Okay, let's do this. Give me a sec. Because I've been talking about this a little bit on Code Commute. It's probably not that exciting for anyone else, but I will just show you guys a few things because when I've been talking on Code Commute, I feel like every time I want to get on to Code Commute and be like, oh, I'm building stuff with AI and it's fun. And then everyone on Code Commute's probably like, this guy just is a vibe coding lunatic now. What do I got going on though? What else? We start with these. Sorry, I have a tab pulled up and I'm looking. Yeah, Stoney says just 1 hour, no stamina this streamer. I know. It's because I also have a job. Unfortunately, can't be streaming during work. But yeah, let me start with these, I guess. Okay. Does this work? Here I am. Okay, so might not seem exciting. I just want to talk about kind of what was going on because it's pretty cool, I think. So I don't know if people know this, depending on how long you've been with me for content creation and stuff like that. But what is it? 13 years ago. Yeah, 13 years ago. I started this website, and it's called DevLeader, and this is where my content is. But 13 years ago, I started this website, and I actually completely gave up on it like a few months into to writing articles. And it's called DevLeader, not for any other reason except that I had transitioned into an engineering manager role as a developer and had no idea what I was doing. And a lot of the time still don't. So I wanted to, thanks for being here, Stoney. I appreciate it. I wanted to start writing about it. I wanted to start writing my experiences of trying to learn about being a manager and a developer. And so, dev leader, right? Development and leadership. So that's what this all came to be. So when I started taking content creation more seriously, I had taken a 10-year break from dev leader because I was like, writing blogs is stupid. No one reads my blogs. And what I probably should have done was just kept writing them. But anyway, here we are. So I took a 10-year break, and then I started getting back into trying to write some blogs and making YouTube videos. So if you don't know, my main YouTube channel is over here. I'm just putting it in the chat. So that is the main YouTube channel. And so started doing the YouTube videos there and writing blogs. But what happened over time, again, was that as I was creating more and more content, I realized like writing blogs is a lot of work, especially once making videos is a little bit easier. And I wasn't like trying to do, a retake every single other sentence or something. It was just like, hey, man, just go with it. Just talk like you're doing right now. Then I started to realize writing blogs is a lot. So only at the start of this year, because I had taken another break from blog articles, I said, we're doing blog articles this year. I'm going to get my site back on track. And so I was spending a ton of time over the past month using Copilot, using Claude, and trying to do site optimization. So I'm not a web developer at all. So if you're looking at my site being like, wow, this is a big pile of crap, thank you. But at least it's performant now, which is cool. And so I was trying to do some other fun things. So I actually did some vibe coding to bring over all of the videos from YouTube are now available on my site if you ever want to check them out. So I have my 2 other YouTube channels here. So I have Dev Leader, which is the one I linked in the chat. So these are my programming and AI tutorials, primarily in C# because that's what I like coding in. I have Dev Leader Path to Tech, which is my resume reviews. I should post another 2 because they're a little delayed. This is a Blazor website, so you are right. And then this is the Dev Leader podcast one, which is what you're watching right now. And I don't know. Oh, it does have the live streams on here too. So this was kind of cool for me because I can now go into here, right? Aside from my dumb face, but I have, the transcript gets pulled in. There's an AI generated FAQ. I have the podcast. So this is on Spotify. You can check that out. And if there's a YouTube video also on my site, you can jump between it. Wow, look at that. Look how cool that is. What else? I optimize things like courses page. I got courses if you guys are interested in courses. So there's some .NET development, and I have some courses for more things like soft skills, career development, that kind of stuff. I have, what else? Oh, projects. Oh man, so been building some stuff. So Brand Ghost is the social media cross posting platform that I always share and talk about. So I have banners for it on my site. This is the business that I run on the side. Brand Ghost is what I use for all of my content creation. So if you see the posts I make on Twitter, LinkedIn, Blue Sky Threads, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Mastodon, Reddit, everywhere. If you see it posted from me, it's from Brand Ghost. And so Brand Ghost does all of my content that way for me so that I don't have to go on every site and keep posting places because I would go crazy. So Brand Ghost is what facilitates that. I will show you in just a moment, but I built my own link tree out of spite because I'm very upset with the link tree people. So I'll show you that in a moment. I have Needler, which I've been making some videos on. This is a dependency injection and type scanning library. And then I built a few MCP server tools. So especially because I was doing website optimization, these ones didn't exist from Google yet. I'm sure they will, but I decided let's go build them. So if I just open one of these up, it actually comes with like docs that get generated. This entire thing is vibe coded. So if I go over to the repository, just to show you, so I mentioned to all of you that I am a .NET developer. I almost exclusively program in C# because I like C#. And I'm not saying it's the best language, but if you think another language is better, you're wrong. No, I'm just kidding. It's just what I happen to like using, so I use it for all the stuff I build. But if you're looking closely, you can see that there's Go on here. Now, I've never written a line of Go in my life. But when I built these MCP servers out with Copilot, I said, hey, build a .NET version and build a Go version and make sure that they're at parity. So if you're ever interested in one of these MCP servers, they are on just my GitHub. And so they've been vibe coded. All three of them were vibe coded to have C# that is basically AOT and trimmed down, and it has the like you don't need other dependencies to go use it. And there's the Go one as well. So just wanted to show you that because these were vibe coded. It was kind of fun to put that together. So there's that. And then I'll show you Homebase in just one moment. My other site is Code Commute. So Code Commute is the vlog channel I have, right? So if you haven't seen it, I'll show you because you can go over to videos just like on my main site. Weird. And you can check out these videos, right? So usually, as you might expect, Code Commute is when I'm driving to and from work or to and from CrossFit. And I record these videos. So Code Commute is primarily driven by people submitting questions, right? So I answer questions. If you want to submit them, you can just comment on any video you want, or you can go to this contact form and you can submit stuff anonymously. I get the email. It says it's from me. I have no idea who you are. So I just ask that if you submit questions, the more context you add, the more effectively I can answer. And then Code Commute is also available as a podcast because people were asking for this on YouTube. But I didn't realize this because a lot of people listen to Code Commute like in the background and they're like doing chores or they're cooking or whatever else just because it's a vlog. I'm just blabbing away. They were leaving their phones open because I don't have YouTube Premium and I don't blame you for not having it. But they just leave their phone open so that the audio doesn't stop. So they were like, can you put it on Spotify? So it's there. The Spotify one, you can see it's got 346 episodes. I think the main channel is up to 440. So Spotify lags a little bit behind. But yeah, it will need to catch up. So if you like watching on Spotify, unfortunately, it will always just be a little bit behind. Stony, if you want, I have a... How do you say that word, by the way? Is it a gist or a gist? In my head, I say it's a gist. With some basic moderation rules, it weeds out all the follow bots. Sure, I don't know where you apply that, but yeah, if you want to, can you put the link in the chat? I don't know if it blocks you on Twitch from doing it. Gist. Yeah, but silent D. It's not a digist. You're not trying to trick me, are you? It's a silent D. Joel says, I have written a line of Go. Nice. How do you actually vibe code big projects? I use AI in the browser. Oh man, Eve. Not that way. Not in the browser. Yeah, don't do that. Unless, I mean, you can if you use GitHub. Can I just, where did that go? So if you use GitHub, I'm not going to recommend this because it's a pain in the butt to do it all this way, but you can like open up an issue. I'm not going to do this for real, but you can make an issue and then you can assign it to Copilot if you have this in your GitHub setup. And so when you do that, it will go take the issue and go build the thing you're doing. And I've built a lot of things this way with a lot of success, but I think you have to have good expectations, because when you fire things off this way and you go assign them to an agent, it's going to go work on it until it thinks it's done. And I would say if you don't have experience doing this with other LLMs building stuff, like other LLMs, a lot of the time you can see what they're doing and interrupt them and be like, no, man, like that's not what I wanted. With this, you don't get that. Like it stops when it thinks it's done, and then you're going to get all this code. And odds are it's not going to be exactly what you want. So I think there's like it's like kind of setting you up to be disappointed. Sometimes it does things really well and it's spot on, but I think if you're not giving it very clear guidance, just assigning things to Copilot this way can be a bit problematic. Like I said, I think most of the code I wrote, most of the things I built last year were actually doing things this way in a very big code base. Over 100 projects in a .NET solution. So a lot worked that way, but the way my code is structured, it's like feature slices. So I could say, go to this project and implement this feature, and not go touch, 100 plus projects. That kind of stuff was usually brittle, but otherwise, yeah, I do a lot of my coding like as a .NET developer. I'm in the classic Visual Studio with Copilot, and I know a lot of people like using VS Code. And then there's also the Copilot CLI and Claude Code and Cursor as well. But I would recommend, VS Code, Cursor, Copilot CLI, or Claude personally for building out projects. And that's just because you can watch them, you can see what they're doing, and they can access a local repo. The one of the nice things about what I was just showing on GitHub, and I do have, if you want to see, I have videos on this on my main channel, but what I really liked about this approach was I could like be eating breakfast in the morning, check on my phone and like submit an issue, and then check it after the gym to see what Copilot had done, and then fire another one off when I go drive to work, and then check it at lunch at work. Like it was just really nice to have this asynchronous kind of work getting done. So anyway, bunch of different ways to do that kind of thing. But yeah, Code Commute also got the treatment. The one embarrassing part that I still haven't done that was vibe coded from the first YouTube video I showed it is this socials page has really got a, look at this Twitter icon. Look at this LinkedIn. Look at this little suitcase. I got to do something about this page still, but I'll figure that out. But I want to show you the thing I'm most proud of. And it's not really true. It's not the thing I'm most proud of, but one sec. I want to show you, I want to show you what a Linktree is. Okay. So this is Linktree. And so I changed my Linktree up because I was paying for this service and it was terrible. Terrible in that I went to go check it, and you can put like these YouTube embeds on here. So when you're like, click, I'll click link for link in bio kind of thing. And then people come from your Instagram or whatever to this landing page. I wanted to have my YouTube videos, which is a feature they have, displayed right at the top, and you could just press the play button. And one day I checked and it was just black screens. They're just black screens. And I contacted support, and they were pretty painful to have a conversation with, and they just stopped responding to me. So I'm paying for this service that is this terrible link in bio thing. It doesn't even work, and it has broken features. And I said, this is a static web page. I am not a web developer, but I'm pretty sure I can make a static web page, or I know someone that can. So I worked with Copilot a little bit, and I built, it looks kind of silly on desktop, but I built my very own link tree. And you know what's cool? These actually work. You know what's even more cool? It's free. You know what's even more cool than that? If you want your own, you can just fork the repo and have your very own page like this, by the way. So totally free if you want one, but this is what it's supposed to look like. I can't believe that theirs was so bad. I even have my projects listed here. So if you want your own little home base, which is what I called it, you can go check out that link. It's also got an FAQ on here. And you might be saying, Nick, what's with all these FAQs? Well, I'll tell you. So when it comes to optimizing things for SEO, and I think that anyone with any kind of web page should be trying to optimize things for SEO, AEO, and GEO, because why else would you have a web page? You should be doing that. And Linktree doesn't even do that. They don't have that. It's not a thing. So I said, I'm going to build this. I'm going to maximize it for SEO so it can show up on a search engine, ideally. And it also has a shop, just like Linktree does. So you can also, and you, like I'm saying, you can have your very own. It's all templated. Yeah, the only thing missing here, the 280 Linktree OnlyFans on it. Yeah. I do not have an OnlyFans, but if I started an OnlyFans, I could teach private C# courses. My wife's upstairs, and I was just curious if she was going to say something, but yeah, so like you can have your own little shop and stuff like that. But like I said, this whole thing is totally free. Can I show it on mobile? Will that work? Yeah, it looks nicer on mobile because the hero image is less absurd, but pretty cool. And this is, again, fully vibe coded. I didn't write a single line of anything you see here. So you get full analytics. You can set it all up. C# course now with extra feet pics. Yeah. You got to do what you got to do, right? But yeah, this is, again, documentation that gets written out for it. I should probably add more explanations in here. Oh, it might be at the top on like the SEO and stuff like that. So if you're curious and you're like, what is going on here? Like there's a lot of stuff that was put in behind the scenes that you can't see. And that's because it's meant for search engines to pick up on. So again, you can go over here and fork it. Right? There you go. There's some questions in the chat. What do we got? I got to sign off here, so let me fire through these questions. I'm automating error handling for both our back and Golang. Oh no. And mobile React Native apps using Sentry and an LLM. On the back end, I can fix issues automatically and even open PRs. Very nice. That's cool. For simpler cases, I commit directly to the main branch. On mobile side, I can push updates via EAS for feature packages, but I haven't gained enough confidence to do this in production with AI alone. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, right? I think there's a lot of things where I need a human in the middle. And so I think AI doing a lot and still letting a human be in the middle, I feel pretty good about. At least at a minimum, trying to push things that way. So what you just said, error handling for both our backend and mobile apps using Sentry and an LLM. Before, some of these things were, I don't know, this is going back maybe like 8 months or so ago. I feel like in the last 8 to 12 months, there's been just a lot of advancements, which is great. I tried building something like this for Brand Ghost, and I didn't hook it up to the LLM yet. But what it would do is, on a weekly basis, collect like posting errors. And the idea was that I would take this data that it would output, and then I could go give it to an LLM and then say, like, categorize these, you know, come up with the top 10 or something, and go use like GitHub Copilot and open up those issues. And then I can just basically, you know, on a Friday or something, just after work, review the issues, or on a Saturday, whatever, review the issues for the week that it's tried to fix. I'm like, that seems pretty cool to me, but I still want to review them. I don't trust it. And so I haven't gotten there yet. And more recently, I realized I probably actually want to change that, because instead of me doing a weekly collection automatically, I can use an MCP server, and I can go let Copilot, like I use a lot of Copilot CLI, let Copilot go pull the logs from Grafana for me with an MCP server. Because more recently, I've just been having conversations with it when I have to go debug something in the server logs. Instead of me going to go look for the logs, I'm like, can you look between like this date and time and this date and time for something like this? And it does it. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that we can start to do this way, but I think that I will be finding ways to automate and put a human in the middle, because I'm just nervous about it still. Then Eve, would be interesting to do a centralized merch store on it so people from all platforms can buy merch. Yeah. Yeah. So the cool thing is, like, with that home base thing is like I said, it's people can take it. They can do whatever they want with it. I tried to make it so that everything was customizable, like, as much as possible. So just, I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry. To jump back to here, like, if you don't have, I think this is just like a portfolio section. You can label it, right? Or you can have multiple portfolio sections. Like, you can have different sections, and you can pick the types of things you want in them. So you can do that. If you're paying attention, oh, it's covered up. Sorry. All the URLs have tracking in them. So you can see when someone comes in to your home base, if they end up buying something and it goes to a product page, like, that's tracked all the way through. But all the categories, everything is customizable. If you have YouTube channels, this newsletter part is customizable. An about section is about, because I'm Canadian, I got to say about, customizable. You can change, oh, I forgot. This is going to be blinding. I'm so sorry. But because like I said, it looks kind of silly on desktop, but you can't see it behind the chat, but this is actually, there's a thing that lets you flip this. Look at that QR code. Animation's kind of wonky going the other way, but you get the idea. And you can change it, right? So if you don't want it to flip, you can move the QR code somewhere else on the page. You can not have a QR code. It also, I don't know how to show this. I don't know how many people know what unfurling is. It's kind of a weird word, but you know, when you share a link on social media and then it puts the preview in, and it like puts a little description and like a picture. So it, at build time, makes you an image that will get unfurled, and it will show like an image with like your profile and stuff like that, so that it nicely unfurls. And it's a little bit customizable, so you can pick colors and stuff like that. But I try to make everything customizable so that it's yours to use. And that way, no one ever has to pay Linktree another cent, because I'm not happy with them. Okay. Joel says, don't trust AI. I find errors naturally in every 130 prompts are more scary. I find major errors in the output at a 1 in 100 prompts. Extrapolate over an agent process. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that along the way ain't so great. So even for me, a lot of it, like, I use AI for a ton. I have at any given time probably like 8 PowerShell tabs doing all sorts of stuff with Copilot or Claude. But I spend a lot of time trying to put harnesses and guardrails in place so that they don't screw up. And they will screw up. It's inevitable. It's just that I try to minimize the screw ups. And then Sarah says, yes, thanks. I currently only push simpler fixes automatically. After larger, more complex issues, I review them first. Yeah. You know what's interesting, though? Like, this idea of like everything is, everything being fully like, you know, automated as much as possible, AI in the loop on all these things. Like, yeah, like, I think that's cool. But I also think that you get so much
so much unlock in terms of like potential productivity or whatever, just by like, even if it's done by AI, just knowing like, okay, there's an issue, and like shortly after there's already a pull request that you could go look at, and it might be fixed perfectly with tests, maybe, and maybe it's not perfect, but like just knowing that that's an option is like pretty cool, right? Like, yeah, maybe you have to, now you got all this stuff to go review, but instead you used to have a bug backlog that wasn't getting fixed. So I don't know, like I think taking these steps to move like where the pain points are is very positive. So we don't always have to jump right to the end of like, it's either we do nothing or everything has to be fully automated. I think there's some cool steps in the middle. Eve was asking, did you guys notice it improve in that regard? Sorry, Eve, what was the question specifically about? Because I probably missed the context because I was rambling. But this is the last one. I want to answer your question effectively. I don't know if it was about the agent guardrails. Is it less error prone? I can't remember what I was saying though. I don't. Maybe if you're still adding context, I'll rewind my brain a little bit. I still find like, okay, so the more that you're using, whether it's particular models or in a particular code base, the more sort of patterns you can pick up on like things that it seems kind of stupid about. So you'll be like, hey, do this. And you'll be like, why is it kind of acting dumb? And like it gets somewhere. Oh, so, okay. So Copilot, since you use it extensively over time, did you notice improve? Yeah, a bunch of things though, right? So I'll talk about Copilot CLI just as an example, because I have been using that a lot recently. I use, when I talk about this stuff, I know I work at Microsoft. I'm not trying to tell you like Copilot CLI is the best thing, you have to use it. I used Claude a ton last year. So I'm just using Copilot CLI a lot right now because it's a new thing for me to try. And so Copilot CLI in particular over the past couple months, not only has the harness itself gotten significantly better with tooling improvements, but we've had a couple of model launches recently, like when Opus like 4.6 came out and like Sonnet 4.6, tremendous models to use. Just incredible. So the models make an enormous difference. Just to give you a quick example, even some things for doing summarization using Sonnet or Opus compared to going back to like, you know, a faster lightweight model like GPT 4.0 mini or something like that, or even just GPT 4.1 non-mini, it almost, that wasn't long ago, and looking at the output from that seems like it is stupid compared to some of these other models. Like it's changing dramatically, which is super cool. Yeah, time to clip it, boys. Microsoft employees as Claude is great. Yeah, we have Claude at Microsoft. But yeah, drift is when the agent gets dumb. I definitely agree. A lot of that's context management, right? Easier said than done, but managing your context, putting guardrails in place. There are times where I feel like it's been poisoned almost and I have to give up. So if it has been documenting what it's doing at least, or there's a plan and some state, sometimes I'm like, I'm kind of screwed here. I will end the session. And then when I start a new session, I'm like, hey, here's the work we were doing. Here's the plan with like what should have been done so far. Start and like, you know, use this plan to continue on. So, you know, there's a bunch of like techniques and stuff like that you can decide to do or use over time. But, yeah, I think a lot of the time for me, it's just like finding ways to put guardrails in place. I'll give you one quick example before I shut up for the night. I think I talked about this on Code Commute this morning, the video I filmed. But one of the things I'm doing on the side, because I'm like, I might as well do this because AI is going to build it for me. I have, speaking of side projects and stuff from earlier, like passion projects, I have this role-playing game engine thing. It's like a framework that I've been on and off building for like 20 years, and it's never going to be done, but it was always like a, I don't know, like a playground for me to like go program in and just build stuff. And so I'm revibe coding it from scratch. I had the old source code I could point it at, like Copilot at. And so it's just been kind of vibe coding this thing for me on the side, and recently got to like integration with Unity. But what started happening was I would be like, okay, we're building this feature next, and it would plug away at it. It adds the test, and okay, all the tests pass. It's go run it in Unity, and I'm like, great. I can't wait to go play this game that it's building. Obviously, it's going to be crap, but can't wait. I'm going to go press this button, and wait, it doesn't even compile. I have errors in Unity, and it doesn't even compile. So I'm like, hey man, you just told me you ran the tests. Like, what do you mean it doesn't compile? Oh, well, I ran the tests over here, but not the Unity tests. Oh, okay. Well, so how do we, and then I have a conversation with it. I'm like, what are some opportunities we have here to not have this happen again? And so it suggests a few things, and it was doing things like it was building some scripts that it could give itself an instruction, like when I am done, go run this script. And so some improvements like this over time, or adding test coverage where it was missing, just this iterative process of like slowly closing the gaps on like where things were just missing. And one of the biggest changes, at least for this project, is that pre-commit hooks in Git. So when it's done its work, it's like, I'm going to go commit this. And then the pre-commit hooks force it to go run the tests. And that was helping a lot. I think the last little bit of work I did with it, and when I started to notice it getting really dumb again, like it's like, hey, I'm done this work, and like it's not compiling or the feature's totally broken, I started to realize it's because it stopped doing the commits. I guess wasn't watching it, but maybe along the way it was like, maybe I should stop committing this stuff because it's taking me so long to go fix it. So I have to go back and figure out like how to bake into the instructions, like when you are done, make sure you commit, no exceptions, blah, blah, blah. But the pre-commit hooks, to kind of get a closed loop for forcing it to run tests, huge benefit in this case. So that's what I noticed. Joel says, when using Claude 4.6, the point where Opus goes dumb is 4 hours in the context for him. And on GPT-5 and Grok, it's 2 hours. Yeah, I've never used Grok. I haven't used GPT. I think I used 5.1, but anything after 5.1 I haven't touched. 5.1 and Opus something were what I was going back and forth with, but Opus 4.5, 4.6, Claude 4, or Sonnet 4.6, huge fan. But I'm way over, folks. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you next Monday. Same time. I don't know what the topic's going to be, but it's probably going to be something from Code Commute this week. So hope to catch you then. Take care.